Coming up, ladies and gentlemen who are watching the first day of Season 4, Arth, a Culture Fest, is again in sync with what Dr. Chandra laid down in his keynote address. Adhering to the Youth Manifesto as we celebrate 75 years of Azadi Ki Amrit Mahotsav at Arth, a Culture Fest, which is the initiative. The youth today is what the youth today are the ones who are going to be the harbingers of change. And let's look at their manifesto, what they are looking forward, how do they envisage in bringing about the transformation in the roadmap of the Bharat ahead, is what we are going to discuss in the upcoming forum. We have with us Avani Lekhara. She's an Indian Paralympic shooter and has won a gold medal in the women's 10-meter air rifle standing SH1 event and a bronze medal in 50-meter rifle 3 positions women at the Tokyo 2020 Paralympics, becoming the first and only Indian female para-athlete to have won a Paralympic gold medal, ladies and gentlemen. Isn't that fascinating? She also won the IPC Best Female debut at the Tokyo Paralympics. She currently holds a second position in the Arth women's 10-meter air rifle standing SH1 category and has won 7 prestigious gold medals since 2017 with several world records in her name at such a pristine young age. Her excellence has been recognized by the President of India with the Major Dhyan Chand Khel Ratna Award, and today, as we sit with her on the stage, she's actually won the FLO, the FICCI Award for her contribution and excellence in her field. Let's put up a grand welcome to Avani Lekhara, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. It is an honor to share the stage with you, Avani. I'd like to invite Palghat Dr. Ramprasad, placed among the 50 most influential soft powers in India by the Open magazine for 2 consecutive years. Palghat Ramprasad is one of the most sought after South Indian Carnatic music vocalists both in India and abroad. Grandson of the legendary Mridanganist Palghat Mani Iyer and disciple of his father Sri Rajaram, Ramprasad's debut to concerts was in 1988 YACM in Chennai as an 8-year-old, and he was awarded the title the best artist of the series. How fascinating is that, Ramprasad? His current research actually focuses on understanding the effects of traditional practice methods on brain activity. That's so fascinating because classical music does have a whole lot of healing therapy to mental health, which is a burning issue post-COVID in the country. We'd like to welcome Prerna Gill. Prerna is a poetess by my heart, and her poems have been featured in the Indian Quarterly, the Sahitya Academy's bi-monthly journal, Indian Literature, and in the collection titled A Poem a Day, 365 contemporary poems, 34 languages, 279 poets by Gulzar. I have that book with me. Somebody gifted me that book, I remember. Her book of poems titled Meanwhile, sounds very esoteric, is to be published by HarperCollins in 2022. It's always great to meet spoken word artists, being one myself based in Calcutta. Sudhanshu Kaushik. Ladies and gentlemen, Sudhanshu currently leads Young India Foundation, India's first youth-focused political action committee and advocacy group which sponsors and helps young people run for local level positions as well as create discourse on youth rights. He hopes to vocalize youth concerns and fight for youth rights in India. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Sudhanshu Kaushik. I'd like to invite the moderator for this evening, Rajeev Mantri, a young India-based entrepreneur and investor investing in public companies and early-stage technology ventures. He has written articles on political economy, technology, investing, and entrepreneurship to Mint, Swarajya, the Wall Street Journal, Financial Times, the Indian Express, the New York Times, International Weekly, and other publications. Ladies and gentlemen, Rajeev Mantri in conversation with a section of the youth icons of this country to discuss the manifesto of the 75th Azadi Ki Amrit Mahotsav, live with all of you at Arth, a culture fest. Enjoy, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
Thank you for that resounding introduction. So today we have a very diverse panel to address this topic on India at 75, Bharat के 75 साल होने वाले आज़ादी के. And on this subject, we have Avani Lekhara ji, who I will ask to go first. So Avani, in your journey in the sports field, you are the world ranked #2 in rifle shooting, one of the youngest recipients of the Dhyan Chand Khel Ratna Award. So in the last 6-7 years, how have you seen the evolution of sports in the country? What are your expectations for the future for this field in terms of administrative support, in terms of how you feel things should evolve? If you can share that with us.
First of all, thank you so much. I started shooting in 2015. And after my accident in 2012, I was on a wheelchair. I was a wheelchair user. So when I started shooting, like I went there in my summer vacations and I was super nervous because, I was young. Plus, I was, I've just gone into a wheelchair after accident. I had no self-confidence in me at that time. When I went to the range, it was not wheelchair friendly. They had to lift my wheelchair to go there to the lane. I didn't have that much physical strength in me to even hold a rifle at that time.
और ये 2015 में करीब आपने चालू किया?
हाँ जी.
और 5 साल में ही आपने स्वर्ण पदक जीता भारत के लिए.
हाँ जी. जब मैंने शुरू किया था, like I said, I couldn't even hold the rifle. I couldn't even lift it. So with some help, I lifted it, and then some shots I tried shooting. They were pretty much in the black circle, and everyone was like, you can literally try in this, and you can do it. But still, that confidence was not there because I didn't know. That's what disability do to you. Like I say. People don't see, people see your disability before they see what you are internally. And that's why I was so nervous. My parents, they helped me a lot. I didn't have as such parachuting specialized coach at that time in Jaipur with me. So we didn't know how to work on that. I didn't have, good customized or shooting wheelchair so that I can shoot, comfortably. I had to customize my rifle also, because normally.
तो ये सब कुछ आपने मतलब अपने आप किया, आपके परिवार ने आपको उसमें सपोर्ट किया और सब कुछ आपको खुद डेवलप करना पड़ा?
Yes. So, like I said, मेरे parents का बहुत support रहा है. My father, he used to, day and night, he used to search on Google, like, what can we do to improve my shooting. We didn't know about the proper equipments. I didn't even know about my classification. Because there's a classification according to our disability. I didn't even know that. So from there, when I didn't know anything, we used to search day and night, with trials and errors. We found, we tried a lot of different wheelchairs, a lot of different rifles, and shooting is a very expensive sport as well. So my parents, they helped me financially. They supported me in all terms. My mom, she used to travel with me. She still travels with me everywhere. Starting from regional to the Paralympic Games, and the sacrifices that they made for me, it is what brought me here. And from there, from the trials and errors, after that, when I got qualified for the Paralympics in 2019, government also supported. I was under top scheme. There were private investors, supporting me when I went to the Paralympic Games, and Indian government, Rajasthan government during the pandemic, they
तो ये जो 5 साल का सफ़र था आपका, आपने शुरुआत की और फिर टोक्यो में आपका जो रिज़ल्ट आया, तो इस सारे सफ़र में मतलब सर्टेनली आपकी खुद की बहुत मेहनत रही होगी, और उसके साथ साथ आपको मतलब आपने कैसे बदलते देखा कि भारत में स्पोर्ट्स के लिए क्या हो रहा है, स्टेट लेवल पे, सेंट्रल लेवल पे, जनरली पब्लिक रिसेप्शन?
initially, though, I would say there was not much recognition. They didn't even know who won the medals in previous Paralympic Games. But this time, there were 19 medals. In Tokyo 2020, and we saw a lot of recognitions from all over India. People are recognizing us. They are recognizing our efforts. They say that we are so proud of you.
और प्रधानमंत्री जी ने भी आपको आमंत्रित किया था, आप सारे पार्टिसिपेंट्स को, सारे मेडल विनर्स को भी और सारे पार्टिसिपेंट्स को भी, तो उसके बारे में कुछ बताएंगे आप? मतलब वो क्या उससे आपको प्रोत्साहन मिला, क्या उससे आपको आपका उत्साह बढ़ा?
Definitely, even before going to the Paralympic Games, we had an interaction with our Honorable Prime Minister, sir, and he motivated us, he encouraged us to, just go out there and give our best, just play. Just play and don't think about winning medals. Just go and give your best, and that's what I think we all did. And even after winning the medals, he personally called each and every medalist. Whether it was Olympics or Paralympics. In fact, he called the women hockey team.
Right.
They came fourth, and it was such a big deal for India. If your prime minister is recognizing you, we see a lot of more people know about you. And after coming back to India, we all were so excited to go to his residence, and we went there, and he spent 2 to 3 hours, with us individually. He even knew little details about each and every athlete, about the coaches, and he was just so motivating that even the ones who didn't win medal, they went motivated home, and then they said, we'll do our 100% next time, and we are gonna win the medal for the country.
फैंटास्टिक। नहीं, और जैसे आगे के लिए, आगे आने वाले वर्षों में आप कुछ और क्या देखना चाहेंगे? मतलब व्हाट वुड बी योर मैनिफेस्टो फॉर लेट्स से द स्पोर्ट्स एरिया? इफ यू हैड टू सजेस्ट 1-2 थिंग्स, व्हाट वुड यू सजेस्ट?
I see a lot of youth who is suffering from some kind of disability to what, and the most important thing being a person with disability myself, I would want, in future that we see a lot of disabled friendly India, which is accessible, not even in terms of physical things, like normally we want just little details, like there should be ramps, there should be lifts, there should be accessible vehicles, so that even the person who travels day to day, they can travel easily. And the technologies that are coming, for example, the ISL languages and the technology, so that everyone, whether they are blind, deaf, dumb, they can access it, and then they can participate in it. They also get the opportunity to participate in, each and everything, because people with disability, they also have the right to express their, they also have a right to choose, they have a right to say the things. So we giving them, not just the government, but everyone, it is more about, I will say, mentally. If we don't see, we don't make a barrier in our mind that, oh, she is on a wheelchair, or she is a disabled person, that they can't do something. If we change that mindset, we as a normal person, then it becomes easier for the person there. because 15% of the world population, and in India there's a lot of youth who has some disability, and then there's this stereotypes, there's stigma that that they can't do. They sometimes they feel that they are not even worthy. They are not. They don't even deserve anything, and that has to go. And if that happens, then we will have a equal India who is participating in each and everything. And for sports, I will say that we see a lot of government recognizing us now after winning Paralympics. Like I said, that I was also in the top scheme before the Paralympics, but there are a lot of stakeholders that should come at a grassroots level. So when people start, when they start, after reaching a certain level, we see a lot of support. But when the actual support is needed, when someone is starting something new, and then they need the pat in the back that you can do it.
So both a kind of a society sort of opening its arms more, as well as सरकार भी इसमें निवेश करे, थोड़ा infrastructure ठीक करे.
Government is
सारी स्थितियाँ ठीक
already
करे.
doing it.
हाँ, मतलब उसमें
they
और बल देना चाहिए.
हाँ जी, and plus the more thing is that you as a citizen come out and accept, and you go out and you do your work, whatever you don't just depend on someone else that okay, someone will come and do it for me. I'm going there and I'm going my 100%. And when you do something from your whole heart and you give your 100%, people also see that you are doing this.
That's a wonderful thought. That's really, I think, a powerful thought for all of us. And on that note, actually, if I can ask Prerna to come in. So Prerna Gill is a poet, writer, editor, and from the field of literature. So Prerna, आपको क्या लगता है कि आज जहाँ पे भारत है, 75 years of independence and a perspective on the next 25 years, as Prime Minister has said, Amrit Kal, and in your field, how do you see India evolving? How do you see India improving, if you will?
As an editor, I see so many promising, talented writers these days, because I think younger people especially are devoting so much more time to understanding themselves on an individual level. So the decisions they make, they're conscientious decisions. They come from a lot of thought. So the beliefs young people hold is something they've arrived at, deciding what they choose to believe, and just as importantly, deciding what they choose not to believe.
Sure.
As a writer, I think, yes, I write in English, and it's an interesting space to be in as a writer from India who writes in English. A lot of
which remains obviously, a lot of people say, a language of the elite and so on.
Of course. I am, of course, grateful for having had the opportunity to learn the language and use it as a medium, but that does not mean that I am not able to sort of tell stories, my version of stories that I have heard from my parents, my grandparents. When I was working on the poems for Meanwhile, I realized that at some level I was trying to reconcile two different aspects of my personality. One was this 90s kid who grew up between Bombay and Delhi. And the other one is this very angry Punjabi woman who sort of is upset that she doesn't really feel a connection with the land from her, of her grandparents. Stories about places that she's heard from by her nani and her dadi. And when I started writing, it gave me an opportunity to engage with what I then saw as that internal disharmony. And the result was really a pleasant surprise, because fine, you might not find anything in Gurmukhi script in my book, but you will find like the 5 rivers depicted as people in certain poems. You will find Waris Shah's tragic heroines appear as ghosts in certain lines. And you'll find that all sort of interspersed between, different, very mundane parts of ordinary life.
That's wonderful. So you've kind of embellished that culture into sort of located that within your writings and your poems.
Absolutely. I think I've been able to sort of give my take on how I feel about these things and these places. And my retelling of these stories is obviously through my own imagination, but if
So
English
there's also a
let
deeper
me
theme
do
here in terms of many youth in India have these overlapping identities.
absolutely.
We are urban people. We have a certain regional heritage. We are all Indians, of course. So we speak different languages. Often, आजकल जो हम हमारी पहली भाषा जो हो गई है शायद हमारे पूर्वजों की वो भाषा पहली नहीं थी. जैसे हिंदी स्पीकर्स नाउ टर्निंग इनटू इंग्लिश स्पीकर्स फर्स्ट एंड सो ऑन. पंजाबी स्पीकर्स
जी.
जैसे आपके परिवार में जो रहे होंगे पहले. Now maybe English is more comfortable for you. So those kind of identities are also evolving in India.
Absolutely.
And that's I think a very interesting lens.
It definitely is, because if you look at the individual is a product of so many interwoven influences and belief systems that at the end of the day you have to locate your selfhood within what is often a very rich inner tapestry. So, and the result is that you're going to get this beautiful, this huge variation in the way in which people choose to nurture their roots. And I think that comes out beautifully in writing and in many other art forms and disciplines.
As a writer, I couldn't agree with you more.
Thank you.
So multitudes exist within all of us,
Absolutely.
especially coming from a land like India, that is Bharat. I think that's a great thought. We will pick it up later, I'm sure, in the questions.
Thank you.
So coming to Ramprasad, you've had a very interesting trajectory in terms of, I think you started early with training in Carnatic music, और फिर आज उसके बाद आप इकोनॉमिक्स में पढ़ने गए. आपने हेल्थ इकोनॉमिक्स में स्पेशलाइजेशन किया है, डॉक्टरेट भी किया है, और उसके बाद आप फिर संगीत की तरफ आ गए. यू केम टुवर्ड्स म्यूजिक अगेन. So please tell us about that journey, and I believe you were a very accomplished researcher working in some large multinational companies, but then you elected to come back to your roots. You elected to come back to India. So please tell us about that journey and how you relate today's India to the long tradition of the field that you come from, that is Carnatic music.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, let me thank you for having me in this elite panel. I mean, these are real achievers. And to be sitting alongside with them and you is indeed a great privilege. Yeah, as you rightly said, Carnatic music is something which dates back to several thousands of years back. Now, in terms of what I might have accomplished as a singer, I mean, I started very early performing concerts when I was hardly 8. And then I had a lot of visibility for the next probably 13, 14 years or 15, 16 years. And then post that, I typically like the life cycle of any other youth, where you start off with the tradition, then move to something which you want to discover for yourself. That is a point where you cut yourself, or you are happy cutting your roots, and then later coming the full circle back, thinking,
Again, would you see that as a route to sort of self-discovery or
You
kind of
start-
forming your own identity in some ways?
That is definitely there. I mean, there is learning in every process, right? So this is definitely something which can give a lot of different flavors in terms of how you go through the experiences by yourself. So that's very individualistic. But you start appreciating that the roots actually matter to you most, right? So probably it's that part of the cycle I was in where I chose to get back to Carnatic music. So there was like a space of like 7 or 8 years where I was not in India. So I was not performing concerts in India, but I was performing concerts very rarely in the US. So what this learning gave me as, some spark when you talked about the cycle of coming, starting off with the roots where our parents install a lot of values to us. Then you start to discover your own self, the journey. And then when you come back, you realize a few things, especially in the last few years, when our country is starting to, start appreciating our culture more. The one aspect which stands out in terms of taking the youth forward, in terms of taking the country forward by the youth, one thing which is very close to my heart is trying to learn, understand, appreciate, and be proud of your roots, right? So,
and there is much to learn and be proud of both, right?
absolutely. I mean, see, it's not to say that, I'll just give you a small analogy. Like, it's very important to take care of your neighbor's parents, but it can't come at the expense of ousting your parents out of the house and say that I'm going to take care of my neighbor's parents.
Sure.
Right? So you belong to something. Why don't you take pride in that, right? So just coming back to this, I mean, it's pretty unfortunate that the youth are colored by the traditions of India that is flavored by the Western ideologies, right? It starts from the fact that, see, Indian culture dates back to several thousands years back. But when you think of Indian history, it almost sounds like it's been 150 years back, like when the East India Company came on and they went back. No, right? And the fallout of this Western influence is, I mean, there are two important fallouts which I see as, areas where we need to improve by the several stakeholders, not just the individual, but by the entity as such, community as such. The first thing is, when you talk about Western ideology, it becomes extremely convenient and comfortable for us to dismiss an idea which does not fit the Western ideology. It could be in the field of sports, it could be in the field of science, it could be arts, it could be culture, it could be societal values. It becomes extremely convenient, right? A simple example would be when Siddha and Ayurvedic medicine came up with some drugs for, the COVID, right? It had to go through the approval of WHO, right? So why can't these two streams exist in parallel and coexist in peace, right? Why should an Indian system get an approval of a Western scientific thought, right? The second thing which I would not like to belabor is that, yeah, Western ideology is very convenient because it harps on logic. Not that India hasn't produced logical thinkers. It has produced probably the greatest of logical thinkers, starting from Adi Shankara, Vivekananda.
Across disciplines, from philosophy to mathematics to physics.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we have produced a lot of logical thinkers. But if you look at the common thread of these great thinkers, always they said logic was just one small part of it. It was an experiential thing that matters most, that comes after you feel that logic is incomplete to explain everything, right?
Sure.
So I think that is something which our tradition says, because I mean, we don't believe in like flamboyant communication or this, articulate things of expressing so that you get away with it. We believed in content. So content is not always diluted. It's very concentrated. So instead of taking the easy route out, saying that, let's say I'm a trained doctor, okay? How much time do I spend? 14 years of schooling, 4 years of undergrad, and 2 years of, my advanced degree. It becomes 20 years. So obviously I know about the subject, but when I make a comment about Ayurveda or Siddha, have I spent even 1 year to understand what the science says? Right? So it's a convenience. It's basically, if you think about it, it's laziness for us to figure ourselves out and try to figure out what an alternative stream would tell you, and rather be comfortable in this space, which stops with logic.
No, and somewhere, whether it's music or whether even in some scientific disciplines,
Right.
I think we in India have not done enough to maybe document, to establish what actually the process and the method is.
Right.
Which makes it opaque for an outsider.
Yeah, I mean, I see, this is something which I've been like a bit amused of, right? Some people ask, what do you do to take Carnatic music to the commons and make it like as popular as some other, let's say a contemporary field? I said, where is the necessity? Right? Why should it be?
Sure. No, obviously every genre of music attracts its own audience. It has
Absolutely.
its own.
I'll be the happiest person if Carnatic music reaches every person on this earth. But it doesn't have to be. That's not a prerequisite for Carnatic music to be called great. It is great by its own standards.
No, absolutely.
So just because if you look at me and Google doesn't pull my name out, that doesn't mean that I'm not known to people, right?
No, of course.
So I think we have to come out of this mold of getting this authenticity from these Western ideologies.
No, and it's not a popularity contest, right?
Exactly. I mean, like, that's something which I would like to belabor. So moving forward, and I think in the last few years, a lot of steps have been taken, including this one conclave, I would say, like, which just, attracts a lot of people to think about. I mean, that's the first process. I mean, acting upon comes later. The first thing is to even acknowledge that you have great roots.
And
right?
let us learn and know what
Absolutely.
was there, what we have.
Absolutely. So I think that would be a great starting point for us to see how we move forward in a faster pace and a faster trajectory in the next 25 years.
Wonderful thought. So I think we have one more sort of panelist. Sudhanshu is going to be joining us. I think he's in the US, if I am right. Is he here? Or should we move to the questions? Okay, so I think we'll just move to the questions. पहला क्वेश्चन ये है, क्या हर फील्ड के लिए अलग टैलेंट होना ज़रूरी होता है या कोई ऐसी कॉमन बात है जो सभी फील्ड्स पर समान रूप से लागू होती है? So, who would like to take that one? Avani, would you like to take that? Please.
I feel that, it doesn't matter what...
हिंदी में जवाब दे सकते हैं.
Okay. मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि आप किसी भी फील्ड में हो, इट डजेंट मैटर कि आप स्पोर्ट्स में हो, आर्ट, कल्चर या एजुकेशन. इट्स जस्ट दैट यू शुड लव व्हाट यू डू एंड आप फुल्ली कॉन्फिडेंट हो उस चीज़ के लिए कि या दिस इज़ माई पैशन एंड इसी में मुझे अपना करियर आगे बनाना है. And for that, you first have to, enjoy the process of it, because बहुत टाइम्स ऐसा होता है कि जब हम कोई चीज़ ऑन अ रेगुलर बेसिस करते हैं तो हम सिर्फ अब उसके आउटकम्स या उसके बाद से जो हमें अवार्ड्स या रिवॉर्ड्स मिलेंगे हम उसके बारे में सोचने लग जाते हैं रादर देन enjoying the process, जो कि हमने शुरू ही इसलिए किया था because we loved that. So in every field, I feel कि you should not forget that you started it and because you love that, and the process is what matters the most. Even when you reach, like, even after winning the medal, it does not matter. The thing that gives me happiness is when I go to the range and shoot something, and I love doing that.
So process of outcome, मतलब परिश्रम करते रहना चाहिए.
It is
जो नतीजे हैं अपने आप
also.
आएंगे.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. It
हाँ,
is
please,
also said in Gita, कर्म करे
Exactly.
जाओ.
मैं यही सोच रहा था. मैं exactly यही सोच रहा था.
कर्म करे जाओ, फल की इच्छा मत करो. And this is what I have learned from my Tokyo experience, that you should just go out and give your 100% without thinking about what your future holds for you.
Fabulous. Ramprasad, would you like to?
Absolutely. I mean, like, I completely concur with what you said. So this typically is like very evident in art field where you practice a lot, okay? Certain concerts, you feel that you have done a real bad job, okay, right after the concert. But right after the concert, people come and say, that was a fantastic concert. So rather than focusing on something which is not in our control, if we spend our time focusing on our efforts, because that is in our control, right? So every session that I do my riyaz, right, I'm not happy about the practice sessions. I mean, I'm not supposed to be. If I'm practicing something which I'm very happy about, I'm not improving, right? So every practice session has to be...
You already mastered that, so...
I mean, like, forget mastery, sure. Okay? Like how they show in movies. I mean, if I just sit with a tambura in front of God and if I'm practicing, I dare not go to the stage. Okay? So the point is, your practice session has to be excruciating. It has to take your blood and sweat out, and you practice those stuff which is really hard for you. And then comes, like, when you go to the concert, then try stuff which you get the best. Right? So I just concur with it in saying that the process, however excruciating it is, it's a conscious decision. You sail or sink with your decision. I chose to be a musician. She chose to be a sports person. She chose to be a poet. So enjoy the process rather than thinking like, okay, at the end of it, what is the outcome? Like if you start thinking about it, then you're not focusing on what you signed up for. You're getting distracted totally, right? So it happens as a byproduct. If it happens, great. If it doesn't happen, then you have something to work on. As simple as that.
I think that is excellent advice. बहुत ही अच्छी दिशा है जो भी सुन रहे हैं. I think two highly accomplished persons, they've given us a very good advice here. Prerna, anything to add to that?
I agree, of course, that you need passion and dedication along with talent. But I also want to add that there's absolutely nothing wrong with ambition. You have to be a little ruthless. You have to get the opportunities that come your way. But other than that, I agree with everything you guys said. You need passion. You need you need that dedication, that practice. But nothing wrong with that little edge that you get from pure ambition and the drive that that can give you.
Fabulous. So I think Sudhanshu has joined us again. Sudhanshu, if you can come in here and contribute your views on India at 75, on the manifesto for the future.
Thanks, Rajeev. So right before I dropped off, one of the most fascinating things that you were speaking right now about was the multitudes of diversity within India. And it would be not in character to kind of watch young people in 5 years, 10 years old, that's sort of pride benefit. What we can try to figure out is India is a gerontocracy. The gerontocracy is a concept for something quite simple. We're governed by much older than the average demographic. And how we go about gerontocracy, trying to assess which people are committed and voice is something that we work with. In terms of a manifesto, I don't have anything to suggest that's what we should be doing, but maybe making our government more representative on the impact. 670 million people in India, and we have 0.04% as of yesterday representation in both Oklahoma and on top of that, the budget just released, and the history of youth affairs or the department is second to last in terms of at least budget department. And I think it's between and the gun review. So I think we need to have priorities where if there is a department representing 650 million people, how resource heavy is it, what they're prescribing to young people, making sure that young identities about and kind of create a lot of the vision that is prescribed to the
Great. So harnessing demography for the country and realizing that potential, that's a great thought. So can we take one more question? So I think the question was, भारत के लिए अगले 10 वर्षों का आपका क्या विजन है? तो should I put that to Ramprasad? Would you like to take that?
Sure. So, see, from a standpoint of all stakeholders, individually, of course, we know how we have to work hard. But the question is, for example, I'll just take a simple instance. When the state government or the central government honors, let's say, an artist, because I can talk about my field. It's a great pleasure for me to receive that honor. But if I think, can the government or can the society, instead of honoring me, use the resources, if it wants to promote the art, say that students who, apart from taking studies, also are performers, they also get a quota in college admissions or school admissions, right? That will be a greater service in terms of what the government or the society in terms can provide, right? I mean, that's the kind of envisioning that we all have to go through in terms of, instead of thinking of what it does to me, if you think of how it contributes to the society, like in 10 years, like 10 years or 15 years or whatever it is. I mean, like, you draw these resources not for you as an individual, but you draw the resources.
Instead of endowing those who are already successful or well known, we try to promote in a wider
Exactly.
way.
So, I mean, as how she said, I mean, the support is needed at the grassroots level, not at a person who is like already established there. So, if I was able to relate to that when she said you need that help at the grassroots level, that motivates students to take up music. That motivates students to take up dance. That motivates students to take up poetry. Right? So that kind of support at the grassroots level is what encourages, rather than, I mean, I'll be very happy if I'm getting an award, right? But more than that, I mean, that is a holistic perspective that I would take.
Okay, that's a great thought. I think on that note, we conclude this panel discussion. Thank you very much. It has been my privilege to sort of conduct this session with some super high achievers, Avani, Ramprasad, Prerna, and of course Sudhanshu as well. Thank you very much for viewing and some excellent questions. We hope you will keep watching the Artha Culture Fest as it unfolds.
Well, you know, I was listening to all of you and I was wondering that I'm not so young as all of you are in terms of a number. When I was younger and wilder, I've tamed down. So, and when I sprung out of my career choices of following a master degree in business administration from Delhi, I was living in the city for 4 years before I moved to Calcutta. I thought that I would pursue performing arts and I would be the jackass in my family, but I chose to do that. And it wasn't easy. It has not been an easy roadmap for me at all. I still brave a lot of odds at my work because of a number of social issues. But looking at the challenges of the Bharat that we are trying to envisage out of this 75 years of Azadi Ki Amrit Mahotsav, I think what all of you said holds of great opinion, and thank you very much all of you for your inputs. Thank you.